Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta, the podcast. This is a new category, a new playlist that we're creating here on Esoteric Atlanta, revolving around the Cassiopaean experiment and the Cassiopaean forum, and more importantly, Laura Knight Jadczyk. It is of my opinion and my partner's opinion that Laura, in our opinions, that she is a very dangerous person. And there's a lot about the Cassiopaean experiment and the Cassiopaean forum that have a lot of red flags for a high-controlled group, a cult, otherwise known as a cult. And so we're creating this playlist to be almost like a file of all these different things that come up. We know that we're not going to convince the cult members. Cult members go through years of programming and brainwashing. They start to excuse things they wouldn't normally excuse. We see things like lying for the Lord in other cults or flirty fishing. And so basically what we're doing with this is just keeping everything in a file, all the red flags that come up for people who maybe are questioning the Cassiopaeans or questioning Laura Knight. Again, we know we're not going to affect her like inner circle. They're too deep into the brainwashing. We are also in the works, I don't know how much I can say, but we also are in the works of creating a big documentary, kind of like The Vow or Going Clear, to really expose the Cassiopaean experiment in the forums, because in my opinion, we're in danger, y'all. Like, we're looking at another Heaven's Gate situation, in my humble opinion. And Laura Knight Jadczyk, it appears from what we have seen, has caused a lot of damage to people in the past. Todd is exposing more of that over on The Confused Wanderer. So this is going to be a longer episode where we combined a lot of these different files into a longer script. So with that being said, please settle down, settle up, listen to what we have to say. And we are not a cult. So if you have any questions that you want to ask in the comment section, you are more than welcome to ask them. Any thoughts, any opinions. We even welcome the trolls. We know we're going to get trolled by her cult members because, like Scientology, like NXIVM, like a lot of these big cults, they attack when somebody dares to question Laura. Laura, in their opinion, is infallible. Laura is in my opinion, she has basically become the Jesus figure for them. The wave is basically the apocalypse, and now instead of Jesus being the Messiah, she's the Messiah. Very, very common for a cult. And so we know we're going to get trolled by them, but we don't censor here. We don't do that, and so they're welcome to troll. With that being said, hopefully if they do troll, they'll at least listen to what we have to say, because we are doing this for everybody's well-being. And so let's get started with the show. Some systems of belief are lanterns. Some become labyrinths. And some are both. In this episode, we will follow the threads of one of the strangest digital labyrinths on the modern spiritual landscape. A world built from channeled voices, theoretical predators, densities of existence, and a community bound together by vigilance. This is the Cassiopaean Forum, and we are going to examine it through the BITE model, the tool researchers use to understand high control environments. No verdicts, just the contours of influence illuminated piece by piece. 1. Behavior control. Participants describe a rhythm of study, daily readings of transcripts, forum discussions, psychological work, and assigned book lists that stack like bricks in a wall. Relationships shift. Those who question the worldview become energy drains, pathological, or interference. Distance grows. Breathing practices are encouraged. Dietary rules quietly congeal. Lifestyle guidances become the gravity of daily life. Each element small, but together unmistakable. 2. Information control. Inside the system, information streams from a central source. Laura's channeling sessions, the C's transcripts, and moderator-approved interpretations. Critical sources become agents of chaos, tools of manipulation. Posts that drift too far from the official map disappear or are shepherded back into the line. The worldview folds inward, a sealed loop. 3. Thought control. Language becomes the architecture. Service to self, service to others, organic portals, buffers, 4D predators, the wave. This vocabulary remarks how members interpret politics, psychology, relationships, and even news headlines. Personal feelings become suspect unless it matches the doctrine. Black and white categorizations stand where nuance once lived. Thoughts bend, perspective narrows. 4. Emotional control. Fear enters quietly. Teachings describe alien interference, psychic perdition, soul traps, and interdimensional manipulation. Dissent risks being labeled service to self. Leaving risks spiritual catastrophe. Self-blame grows, dependence grows, and emotional gravity shapes belief. The mirror. Yoga Sutras versus the Cassiopaean cosmology. To understand a belief system's gravitational pull, sometimes you need a counterweight. So we bring one of the oldest maps of human consciousness, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Not as an antidote, not as a rival, just as contrast. 2 visions of the universe. 2 visions of the self. 2 very different ideas of liberation. In classic yoga philosophy, the cosmos is astonishingly simple. 2 principles, just 2. Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti is nature, mind, matter. Prakriti is everything that moves or changes: thoughts, emotions, atoms, ego, senses, memory, storms, galaxies, impulses, reactions, the entire psychological and physical world. It is the stage, the actor, the script, and the lighting. Purusha is pure consciousness. Purusha is the silent witness, not the story, only the awareness observing it. It does not fight, evolve, ascend, descend, or battle. It just simply sees. The goal of yoga is to recognize the difference. To realize, I am awareness itself, not my thoughts, not my fears, not the turbulence of my mind. Liberation comes when the drama of Prakriti stops being mistaken for the self. No enemies, no cosmic war, no predators. Just the mind and the freedom beyond it. When this ancient framework is placed beside the Cassiopaean universe, the contrast becomes striking. Purusha is stillness, but for the Cassiopaeans, the soul is the actor. For the Cassiopaeans, the soul is mistaken for Prakriti. In yoga, consciousness does nothing. In Cassiopaea, the soul navigates densities, combats deception, and evolves through conflict. In yoga, bondage is internal. In Cassiopaean, forces are external. Yoga says suffering comes from mental misidentification. Cassiopaea says suffering often comes from the outside: 4D beings, manipulations, predators, interdimensional interference. Yoga has no cosmic war. Cassiopaea frames reality as conflict. Yoga, a neutral dance of nature and awareness. Cassiopaea, a battlefield of service to self versus service to others. Liberation, stillness versus vigilance. Yoga seeks a quiet mind and detachment. Cassiopaea seeks knowledge of deception, awareness of predators, and decoding of the universe. 2 categories versus many densities. Yoga only focuses on the 2 things that we can control, Prakriti and Purusha. Cassiopaean, however, has layered densities, hierarchies, higher beings, and evolutionary tiers. Fear in yoga dissolves. Fear in Cassiopaean alerts. Yoga rejects fear as a fluctuation of the mind. Cassiopaean frames vigilance as spiritually necessary. Side by side, the distincts becomes almost luminous. Yoga says, you are consciousness, untouched by the world. Cassiopaean says, you are a participant in the cosmic structure filled with forces that influence your growth. One path disarms fear by seeing through it. The other maps fear to understand it and survive it. Through the BITE model, we see the Cassiopaean community adapting patterns familiar in high-demand groups, especially in information, thought, and emotional shaping. Through the mirror of yoga philosophy, we see how complex, externalized, conflict-driven cosmologies differ from systems that place liberation entirely within the mind. One demands vigilance. One demands stillness. And perhaps the real question is not which is right, but which door you walk through and what you carry with you when you leave. And now a word from our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Fusion Body Studio, the online fitness boutique designed for real people with real schedules and real goals. If you've been wanting a workout routine that actually fits your life, this is your sign. Fusion Body Studio blends strength work, mobility, toning, and mindful conditioning into classes that you can stream anytime, anywhere. No intimidation, no pressure, just accessible, smart programming that meets you exactly where you are. Whether you're a total beginner coming back from a break or you're ready to level up, Fusion Body Studio has a class for every mood and every body. Fusion Body Studio's instructors guide you through modifications, progressions, and form cues so you always feel supported, not just exhausted. And because you're a listener of this podcast, you get an exclusive offer. Use discount code BRICE20 for 20% off your first 6 months. That's half a year of workouts, motivation, and a community that cheers you on at a discount. Head over to fusionbodystudio.com and use BRICE20 at checkout. Move smarter, feel stronger, live better. Fusion Body Studio, fitness that feels like home. And all that information will be down in the description box below. Now back to the show. Some stories begin with a ghost. Others begin with a prophecy. This one begins with a question typed into a void in the early internet. Who is speaking to us? In the 1990s, a new voice emerged, letter by letter, session by session, through what was called superluminal communications. The Cassiopaeans, who according to Laura Knight Jadczyk were 6th density future humans. Or were they light beings? Or maybe they were non-material intelligences. Or maybe they were just fragments of a higher self. The identity changed shape as the years did. This is the story of that shifting voice, and 2 others echoing beside it. The serene monotone of Ra, and the apocalyptic call that ended with 39 bodies in matching sneakers. The Cassiopaeans were certain. They spoke of timelines, cataclysms, the wave. The end was arriving in the late 1990s. No, I'm sorry, the early 2000s. Or wait, no, 2014. No, it was always just coming, just not yet. Commentary bombardments failed to materialize. Regime collapses never arrived. Nuclear exchanges evaporated into nothing. And each time the timeline cracked, the story bent. Humanity shifted the probability. You misunderstood the symbolism. The meaning was encoded. A pattern seen in many prophetic groups. When the prophecy fails, interpretation becomes the shield. But who were the Cassiopaeans? Future humans, then light beings, then non-corporal intelligences, and then later perhaps reflections of the channeler herself. Atlantis changed oceans. Jesus died, then didn't, then was revealed to be Julius Caesar. Alien involvement shifted from physical to hyperdimensional to metaphorical. The voice behaved less like an eternal cosmic intelligence and more like a mirror bending to the interest of the moment. Every transmission urges followers to think critically, question everything. But as the community grew, the rules changed. Skepticism was encouraged only if it aimed outward. When aimed at the group, the tone hardened. Dissent is service to self-influence. Departing members are corrupted or attacked. Do not question the work. Do not question Laura Knight Jadczyk. A contradiction familiar to anyone who has studied high-demand groups. Critical thinking is praised until it threatens the center of authority. Decades before Cassiopeia, another claim transcript appeared, the Law of One. Carla Ruckert in a deep trance. Don Elkins questioning with strict, almost ritualistic precision. A single voice, raw, speaking in slow, deliberate monotone. No political predictions, no emotional mood swings, no sudden reinterpretations. If Cassiopeia was improvisational, a conversation shifting with the temperature of the room, Ra was static, unchanging, almost inhumanly consistent. Where Cassiopeia built a cosmic battlefield, Ra built a cosmic classroom. Where Cassiopeia warned of predators, Ra spoke of unity. Two voices, both claiming higher density, one chaotic, one serene. But to understand the dangers buried in shifting prophecy, we have to hear one more voice, a voice that ended in tragedy. Heaven's Gate. Marshall Applewhite Doe and Bonnie Nettles T. They didn't use a Ouija board, but the structure was eerily familiar. A leader at the center. Teachings claimed to be from extraterrestrial beings. Earth as a corrupted garden. A chosen few preparing for ascension. While the Cassiopaeans spun tales of hyperdimensional predators and conspiracy-laced metaphysics, Heaven's Gate taught a similar cosmology. Earth was about to be recycled, an escape requiring leaving the body to join a spaceship. Both saw the world as manipulated. Both view themselves as awakened. Both frame outsiders as deceived, asleep, or influenced by dark forces. But one difference still stands as a warning flare. The Cassiopaean movement remains online and metaphorical. Heaven's Gate ended in 39 bodies arranged neatly in bunk beds. With both the Cassiopaeans and Heaven's Gate, we see many similarities. A chosen elite, a special density, an apocalyptic horizon. A belief that forces, human or hyperdimensional, manipulate the world. A leader positioned as the interpreter of cosmic truth. A worldview where dissent equals spiritual danger. The seeds are the same. The outcomes diverged. For now. The Cassiopaean Forum becomes a digital esoteric subculture. Threads sprawling, interpretations multiplying. Heaven's Gate building one of the earliest religious websites, a beacon sent into cyberspace. Both believe they possess secret knowledge. Both draw seekers who felt alienated from mainstream spirituality. So far, Heaven's Gate asks for your body, where Cassiopeia has only asked for your mind. Three voices. The shifting Cassiopaeans, the serene Ra, and the fatal Heaven's Gate. One offers conspiracy, one offers philosophy, and one offered escape through death. Yet all three claim access to beings beyond space and time. All three promise secret knowledge. All three attract those searching for meaning in a fractured world. When the world feels chaotic, a voice from beyond can feel like an anchor. But if that voice shifts, if it contradicts itself, if it demands obedience, secrecy, or fear, then maybe it isn't an anchor at all. Maybe it's just another current, pulling you out into deeper waters. It starts quietly in forums, articles, and online transmissions. Messages, allegedly from higher dimensional sources, are interpreted, debated, and revered. And at the center, one voice shapes it all. Laura Knight Jadczyk, the interpreter, the gatekeeper, the controller, and the final authority on what is correct. Some call it a spiritual research network. Others see something more controlling. Let's step deep into the digital cosmos. Let's explore the psychological dynamics of Laura Knight Jadczyk's leadership, the community she controls, and why critics see cult-like patterns. Critics argue that Laura Knight Jadczyk functions as the sole interpreter of the Cassiopaean messages. Every insight, every lesson, every framework passes through her. It's not merely guidance. Within the group structures, her word becomes authority, the final arbiter of truth. For core participants, questioning the material is often reframed as a sign of spiritual weakness or influences from negative hyperdimensional forces. This is the first psychological dynamic we'll explore: leader-centric authority. Behavior control. Typical cults dictate daily life: where you live, what you eat, whom you see. The Cassiopaean community. It allegedly has the beginnings of a commune in France, but most of its interactions exist online. Information control. Restricting information, censoring dissent, enforcing leader-approved narratives is most apparent. The forums are curated. Dissenting voices have been removed. External sources sometimes discouraged. The worldview is reinforced. There's thought control, loaded language, reframing doubt as moral or spiritual failure. Terms like service to self, service to others, buffers, hyperdimensional manipulation permeate discussions. Questioning can be reframed as a service to self influence, undermining independent judgment. Emotional control, fear, shame, apocalyptic urgency. The teachings describe hyperdimensional predators, catastrophes, unseen forces. For some, it's empowerment. For others, anxiety and internal dependency. The central trait: high centralization of authority. Laura Knight Jadczyk interprets messages. No checks or rotating leadership exist. Bound choice. A psychological cage without walls. Deep participants may selectively accept evidence, reframe doubts, and rely on the group to interpret events. Casual readers might remain unaffected, but core members navigate an intricate web of mental boundaries. Now let's apply Lifton's criteria. Milieu control is moderate. Curated forums and coherent narrative. Mystical manipulation, very high. Demand for purity, low to moderate. Service to self versus service to other framing. Sacred science, you betcha, super high. Channeled material treated as authoritarian. Loading the language, again, super high. Unique vocabulary systems. Doctrine over person, super high. Dispensing of existence, low, for now. According to Lifton's criteria, the Cassiopaean forum rate very high in a cult template. Let's look at key allegations from critics. 1. Fear-based cosmology. Skepticism reframed as spiritual danger. 2. There is a strong in-group, out-group identity, us versus them. Outsiders are the sleeping masses, insiders are the only ones awake. 3. An echo chamber effect, critical voices removed, worldview reinforced. 4. Apocalyptic narrative, alien control, hyperdimensional warfare, imminent catastrophes. 5. Psychological influence, emotional dependency, reliance on Lauronite Jadczyk for interpretation. 6. Financial labor contribution, alleged voluntary donations reinforce loyalty. The DSM-5 defines narcissistic personality disorder through grandiosity, entitlement, fantasies of power, interpersonal exploitation, and pervasive dysfunction. Critics argue that Lauronite Jadczyk exhibits these traits. She has a centralized authority over truth, sensitivity to dissent, expectation of loyalty, and rare acknowledgement of error. Some critics see narcissistic leadership traits, centralized authority, framing dissent as spiritual failure, but no one that we know has ever formally diagnosed Laura with narcissism. The Cassiopaean community exists in a liminal space, a digital cosmos of esoteric messages, complex frameworks, and devoted followers. It's a cautionary tale of authority, belief, and the invisible lines we navigate in pursuit of understanding. As we close today's journey through the Cassiopaean community, one final thread emerges: the story of the wave. At first glance, it might seem entirely alien, modern, even abstract. But when compared to ancient text, patterns begin to emerge. Take the book of Revelation, an apocalyptic vision written millennia ago, full of seals, trumpets, and cosmic upheaval. And now look at the wave. A modern channeled prophecy of density shifts, hyperdimensional physics, and a transformed humanity. Two sources separated by time, culture, and method. Yet curiously, they share striking parallels. Revelation speaks of the end of the current world, a transition to a new heaven and a new earth. The wave describes a fourth density shift, ending the matrix of our current reality, moving humanity into a higher awakened state. Both narratives phrase cosmic change as inevitable, approaching, and world-altering. The current order is ending, and what comes next is beyond comprehension. Revelation divides humanity into the faithful and the wicked, the saved and the lost. The wave separates the awake from the asleep, those ready for a transition from those who remain behind. Both systems create urgency, identity, and a sense of belonging for the informed group, and psychological line drawn between insiders and outsiders. In Revelation, the faithful are warned of the beasts, false prophets, and deception. The wave tells of service to self-forces, matrix manipulations, psychic interference, humanity being subtly and visibly misled. Both frames present the world as a battleground of truth versus falsehood, a place where vigilance is not just prudent, it is necessary for survival. Seals, trumpets, dragons, angels, and fire. Destiny shifts, cosmic cycles, hyperdimensional overseers. Both systems use symbolism to evoke awe, fear, and a sense of cosmic significance. Each image, each metaphor carries weight far beyond the literal, guiding perception, shaping experiencing, and triggering the imaginations. Revelation promises renewal, a spiritually transformed humanity. The wave promises expanded awareness, higher perception, and abilities beyond our current understanding. Both narratives depict transformation not as external, but ontological, a redefinition of what it means to be human. Psychologists note that apocalyptic systems, whether ancient or New Age, tap into universal mechanisms: heightened group identity, urgency and vigilance, distrust of outsiders, belief in secret knowledge, feeling of cosmic significance. Both Revelation and the wave craft psychological landscapes where participants feel uniquely poised at the edge of history, or perhaps the edge of evolution itself. Yet distinctions remain. Revelation is rooted in Christian teaching, moral judgment, and linear history. The wave is modern, metaphysical, and esoteric, drawn from New Age cosmology, quantum metaphors, and UFO lore. The similarity, however, is undeniable. Both use apocalyptic storytelling to shape perception, identity, and anticipation, drawing participants into a narrative that feels larger than life, larger than reality itself. The Cassiopaean wave, like the visions of Revelation, remind us that humans have always looked to the edge of time, the brink of transformation, and the unseen forces that shape our existence. It is the story of authority, awakening, and the invisible lines between fear and understanding. Whether ancient or modern, the pattern remains. We are always seeking to know what comes next. If you are listening and wondering, am I in too deep? Can I leave? Know this, you are not alone. Many people have felt trapped in groups where doubt feels dangerous and leaving seems impossible. The first step is recognizing that your thoughts, feelings, and questions are valid. Curiosity, doubt, and even fear are signs of awareness, not weakness. Recovery often begins by connecting with trusted support networks. Friends, family, therapists, or organizations specializing in cult recovery. You do not need to navigate this journey alone. Remember, leaving doesn't happen all at once. It can be gradual. It's okay to take small steps, question beliefs, seeking outside information, and establishing boundaries one step at a time. Healing is possible. Freedom is possible. And the world outside the group, though unfamiliar, holds connection, understanding, and self-determination. If you need guidance or support, here are a few trusted resources. The International Cultic Studies Association and Cult Recovery Hotline and support groups. Many local and online groups provide confidential guidance. You are allowed to think, to question, and to live for yourself. Your life, your mind, and your heart are your own. And taking the first step towards freedom, no matter how small, is the bravest thing you can do. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Todd and I are going to continue to be throwing up the red flags with the Cassiopaean cult. We are very concerned about the well-being of those who are deep in this cult. We know how dangerous, in our opinion, how dangerous Laura is, and how much evidence there is out there that this could go south real fast. This is definitely along the lines of Heaven's Gate, in my opinion. We know that the Cassiopaeans, quote unquote, have prophesized that this wave is supposed to come before the end of Laura's life, and Laura herself, I believe, is in her 80s. And so what is terrifying is that in order to enforce this quote unquote truth, there is going to be antics done, a lot like Heaven's Gate. We are very concerned about that. That is our opinion. And please, if you think you are in a cult, please reach out for help. If you are part of the Cassiopaean cult and you want to talk, or you want support, you're more than welcome to email me at esotericatlanta@gmail.com, or reach out to Todd at The Confused Wanderer on YouTube, and we will be more than happy to speak with you and to give you a platform if you want to platform your story. Don't worry about Laura. I know that she attacks people who speak out. Todd and I are going to go through some of her attacks that she's done, literally to people who just leave like one Amazon review that's bad of her book. She goes on the attack. This is very, very, very typical of a narcissist and very typical of a cult leader. I am not afraid of Laura. I've already been through my fair share of smear campaigns. I know that Laura likes to make stories up about people that she's trying to take down. So quite frankly, I'm very excited to see what kind of stories she creates about me, but I'm not afraid of her. I laugh at her. I'm not afraid of her. So if you need me to take the arrows for you, if you want to talk to me and you want the support of Todd and myself, we will be more than happy to be your shield and allow you on our platform and protect you as much as we can. Your story matters. Your abuse matters. Yes, you were very much abused. And so we want to do everything we can to stop this train before it goes off the tracks. And with that being said, you guys, thank you so much. Again, Follow Todd at The Confused Wanderer. If you're not following me on YouTube, please consider following me on YouTube and on Substack. And other than that, guys, we will talk to you very soon. Bye, everybody.